There are two ways in which any government can proceed. One is a way based on what you and I would call a free society, which is enshrined right at the heart of the American Constitution. The other one is a way which allows only one view, both of economics and politics, in which almost everything is either owned or controlled by the state, including the media, including the ideas, including freedom of discussion and everything. There is no freedom of discussion. Now, between those two ways, the free society and the totally controlled society, there are, of course, variations. I think what we've learned in Britain is that we've gradually, over the last certainly 12 or 13 years, with perhaps a little interruption, gone slowly further and further away from the free society towards something else. At the same time, we've found, I don't find it strange, but some other people do, that we have stopped creating wealth. We've had a large number of increasing restrictions. And you've been finding two things. First, that we are more and more concentrating on redistributing the wealth we've got, rather than creating any more. To create more, you need a slightly freer society, and you need an incentive society. Naturally, when I see that happening, I look with very great alarm to societies which have gone even further left. That is, they've tried to redistribute even more and haven't had the incentives for people working hard on their own account, doing well for their families, and often then being able to create jobs for others. They've produced a much more prosperous society than we have.
We fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is The Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. This piece I was alerted to by someone I follow. It's from USA Daily Times. It's a short piece, but I think an important one. Now, I just got a little comment to make before I read you the piece. We don't either have or want a 1 or 2 or a 3-hour show. A Radio is not about, for the most part, what's in the headlines. You can go to many places if you want to know what's going on, what they think is important. No, what we do here is try and capture that little crumb of what we think is news that slips between the cracks. The pieces they either won't or don't cover. Case in point, and I will of course put the links as always on my website. It's entitled California Forced to Clean Up Dirty Voter Rolls Impacting 1.5 million People. Judicial Watch announced today it signed a settlement agreement with the state of California and the county of Los Angeles, under which they will begin a process of removing from their voter registration rolls as many as 1.5 million inactive registered names that may be invalid. These removals are required by the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA. The NVRA is a federal law requiring the removal of inactive registrations from the voter rolls after 2 general federal elections, encompassing from 2 to 4 years. Inactive voter registrations belong for the most part to voters who have moved to another county or state or passed away. Los Angeles County has over 10 million residents, more than the populations of 41 of the 50 states in the United States. California is America's largest state with almost 40 million residents. That's greater, by the way, than the entire population of Canada. Just thought I'd put that in to give you some perspective. Piece continues, and here's a short clip from the head of Judicial Watch.
Hi, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with major breaking news for clean elections. Judicial Watch and its clients settled a major federal lawsuit against the state of California and Los Angeles County that require the removal of up to 1.5 million in active voter registrations. This obviously goes a long way to cleaning up election rolls in California and will have a major impact nationwide in Judicial Watch's ongoing election integrity efforts to make sure that your elections are clean, fair, and honest.
Judicial Watch filed a 2017 federal lawsuit to force the cleanup of voter rolls. Judicial Watch sued on its own behalf and on behalf of Wolfgang Cooper, Rue Guyant, Jerry Griffin, Dolores M. Mars, who are lawfully registered voters in Los Angeles County. Judicial Watch was also joined by the Election Integrity Project California, Inc., a public interest group that has long been involved in monitoring California voter rolls. In its lawsuit, Judicial Watch alleged, and these are a series of bullet points, Los Angeles County has more voter registrations on its voter rolls than its citizens who are old enough to register. Specifically, according to data provided to and published by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, Los Angeles County has a registration rate of 112% of its adult citizen population. The entire state of California has a registration rate of 101% of its eligible citizenry. 11 of California's 58 counties have registration rates exceeding 100% as the age-eligible citizens. The lawsuit confirmed that Los Angeles County has on its rolls more than 1.5 million potentially ineligible voters. This means that more than 1 out of every 5 LA County registrations likely belongs to a voter who has moved or deceased. Judicial Watch notes that Los Angeles has the highest number of inactive registrations in any single county in the country. The Judicial Watch lawsuit has also uncovered that neither the state of California nor Los Angeles County had been removing inactive voters from the registration rolls for the past 20 years. The Supreme Court affirmed last year in Husted versus A. Philip Randolph Inst that the NVRA makes this removal mandatory. The new settlement agreement filed today with the U.S. District Court, Judge Manuel L. Real, requires all of 1.5 million potentially ineligible registrants to be notified and asked to respond. If there is no response, those names are to be removed as required by the NVRA. California Secretary of State Padilla also agrees to update the state's online NVRA manual to make clear that ineligible names must be removed and to notify each California county that they are obliged to do this. This should lead to a cleaner voter rolls statewide. Prior to this settlement agreement, Judicial Watch estimated that based on comparisons of national census data to voter roll information, there were 3.5 million more names on various county voter rolls than there were citizens of voting age. This settlement could cut this number in half. That's incredible, isn't it? This is only the third statewide settlement achieved by private plaintiffs under the NVRA, and Judicial Watch was the plaintiff in each of those cases. The other statewide settlements are with, have a guess, Ohio in 2014 and with Kentucky in 2018, which agreed to the court order consent decree. This settlement vindicates Judicial Watch's groundbreaking lawsuit to clean up the state voter rolls to help ensure cleaner elections, said Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Quote, Judicial Watch and its clients are thrilled with this historic settlement that will clean up election rolls in Los Angeles County and California and set a nationwide precedent to ensure that states take reasonable steps to ensure that dead and other ineligible voters are removed from the rolls, unquote. Judicial Watch attorney Robert Popper is the director of the organisation's Election Integrity Project and led the Judicial Watch legal team in this litigation. Judicial Watch is the national leader in enforcing the list maintenance provision of the NVRA. In addition to its settlement agreements with Ohio and a win in Kentucky, Judicial Watch filed a successful NVRA lawsuit against Indiana, causing it to voluntarily clean up its voting rolls, and has an ongoing lawsuit with the state of Maryland. Gosh, what a surprise. Judicial Watch helped the state of Ohio to successfully defend their settlement agreement before the Supreme Court. In North Carolina, Judicial Watch supported implementation of the state's election integrity reform laws, filing amicus briefs in the Supreme Court in March 2017. And in April 2018, Judicial Watch filed an amicus brief in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in the support of Alabama's voter ID law. In Georgia, Judicial Watch filed an amicus brief in support of Secretary Brian Kemp's list maintenance process against a lawsuit by left-wing groups. Judicial Watch and Georgia won the Supreme Court, ruled in Ohio's favour. Judicial Watch was assisted in this case by, and there's a number of people, I'm not going to bother in that. So there's the piece. Now I want to bring it to a local situation. Now it's not directly relevant to this, but it's indirectly it is relevant. That's why I want to make this point. And it's as follows. In Canada, we have legal fraud going on by our Prime Minister, who has changed the law for refugees, speeding up, shall we say, their naturalisation process and citizenship. Thereby, he hopes to load up his base for the upcoming October 2019 election. When Americans talk about their election cycle being crucial, they're correct. In Canada, for us, this election, this October, will have the effect of changing Canada forever. Trudeau has managed to stuff the Canadian voting electorate with hundreds of thousands of refugees who know little or nothing about Canada's needs or wants. Liberals the whole world over care nothing for you or me. Just one thing: power. Absolute power. If Trudeau wins the next election in Canada, Canada will be changed forever. Canada will be a servant of China. That's what Trudeau wants. He's a great admirer of China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
I found it a bit silly for Justin Trudeau to say that what he admired the most was a dictatorship, frankly. I've always been rather fond of democracies.
Consider this. You could have China and the Chinese technicians not just on your southern border. Oh yes, they're there, but on your northern border as well. Canada's defence systems are already integrating Chinese technology. Why? Good question. So when you think about your next presidential election, more than a year away, ours is only a few months away, and it could affect you every bit as much as yours in 2020. Trudeau is no friend of America, just like his father, the communist. Make sure you tell your congressman and your senator that you know what's going on in Canada, and he needs to be aware, or she needs to be aware of that too. Be on your guard. Canada, that is the federal government of Canada, is no friend of the USA, but Canadians are. Just thought I'd make that little distinction. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab, and email. We are also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist, and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on the links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio. And please click on the like button. And you can now hear a weekend review of our podcasts on WHBJ DB. News Talk Radio. Join us and many others, and you can find all our podcasts and Morning Moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.